Shalom, welcome to my channel, The Hebrew Bible. This is Moses Gumade, and in this video we'll talk about God's name according to Zechariah Sitchin. Well, why am I talking about this guy? The other day I just had this video come up on my YouTube feed in which Zechariah Sitchin was talking about God's name. So interestingly, I listened it and it turned out that some of the things that he says are actually correct. Especially the meaning of the phrase Ehyeh, Asher, Ehyeh, although I don't agree with his conclusions and a lot of other things that he talks about. But let's go through what he says.
It is usually translated, I am who I am, something like that. But more accurately, which in Hebrew it says Ehyeh, Asher Ehyeh, is a future tense. And therefore it means I will be whoever I will be. It really means I can be whoever I choose to be. Who really God with the capital G was, is, and will be.
Yes.
Right, the phrase that he's talking about is Ehyeh, Asher, Ehyeh, that occurs in Exodus chapter 3 verse 14. It means I will be what I will be. And God said, I will be had sent me unto you. And the meaning Zechariah gives, is that I will be whoever I will be. That's fine, no problem. But he goes on to say, I can be whoever I choose to be. Now this is not far from the meaning either, because he will be, that means he can be too. And whoever is already there in I will be what is whoever, and I can be whoever, Asher. I chose to be is again, because he's able to exercise his will, he can certainly choose to be. So the question then is, he chooses to be who? Zechariah Sitchin seems to conclude, well, he can be anybody, and then he takes the names of some of the Sumerian gods, Enki and Enlil, and said, while the infinite God, YHWH, he's alone, he's one God, the God with a capital G as he calls him, but he can become anyone he wants to be, and therefore he tries to equate him like as though he became somebody. Well, we don't quite accept that he has become. Okay, so that's the point. So let's explore this point. He will be who? He will be who? God actually, and he will be what? Because the word Asher could mean that or what or who. It can mean anything. Right, so let's get back to the context. In the book of Exodus chapter 3 verse 12, a couple of verses earlier, God says this word, Ehyeh, before he says Ehyeh, Asher, Ehyeh in verse 14. And we read here, Vayomer ki Ehyeh imach. God says to Moses, I will be with thee. So here we have Ehyeh, I will be what? I will be with thee. With who? With Moses. Elsewhere in chapter 4 verse 12, we read that Ve'anochi Ehyeh im picha. So with thy mouth, I will be with thy mouth. So I will be with your mouth. What does it mean? It means, and teach thee what thou shalt say. In other words, what Moses would speak are the exact words that God himself would speak, but then he is making Moses to speak those words on his behalf. And so basically God is getting inside Moses, let us put it that way, and trying to speak through the mouth of Moses. Okay? That's what it means, I will be with thy mouth. Okay, so he will be what he will be, and so he will be with his mouth. Further on, Moses objects. He says, well, I'm not a very good orator, I can't speak well. He makes that objection, then God gets angry. He says, what about your brother Aaron, right? He says, I'm gonna send him, right? So thou shalt speak unto him, to Aaron, and put words in his mouth. and I will be with thy mouth. So again he says, Ve'anochi ehye im pika ve'im pihu, with your mouth and with his mouth, Aaron's mouth as well. Ve'horeti efchem et asher ta'ason. So, and will teach you what ye shall do. So not only what they speak, now he's saying that what you shall do. So he is adding Aaron now. And he says, I will be with your mouth, that is with the mouth of Moses, and with the mouth of Aaron, and I will teach both of you what you would do. And therefore, God is now going to act through Moses primarily, but also through Aaron, not only to speak, but also to do the actions. That is, YHWH, the infinite God, will now work through these two men, and thereby he becomes what he wants to become. Okay, that's the meaning. Now, there is additional insight that we can get from the next verse where we read, V'diberhu lecha el ha'am v'hayahu yihye lecha lefe ve'ata tihye lo le'elohim. Oh, now what is he saying? He's now arranging a sort of a hierarchy between Moses and Aaron. He's saying that whatever the relationship is there between God and Moses, the same relationship would exist between Moses and Aaron. He says, Ve'hayahu yihye lecha lefe, meaning Aaron shall be in the place of a mouth for you, meaning he will be your mouth. And Ata, you, that is Moses, you Moses, Tihye lo le'elohim, and you shall be to him in place of or instead of God. So you will play the role of God to Aaron, and Aaron will play the role of a prophet to you, the same relationship that I have with you, God says to Moses. Interestingly, these two words, Yihye and Tihye, are, well, basically third person and second person versions of the word Ehye. Ehye is I will be in the first person. In the third person, it will be Yihye. And in the second person, it will be Tihye. Right? Also, third person feminine also it is Tihye. But here in this case, it is second person masculine. Tihye. You will be or thou will be. So essentially, it's the same thing. God is illustrating what it means by Ehye, by saying that he will be the mouth, he will be with the mouth of Moses and basically carry out his will through the speech of Moses and through the actions of Moses, because he will act in and through him. In and through him. So when Moses acts, it is as good as God acting in that through that individual, which is why sometimes in some places even prophets in the Bible call themselves by the name YHWH. You may think, how is that possible? Well, look at this chapter, Deuteronomy 29 verses 3 to 5. He says, and the Lord Hashem has not given you a heart to know, and eyes to see, and ears to hear to this day. Who is speaking? Moses is speaking. You can look at the context of this passage. We say, Velo Nathan Adonai. So he's saying, Hashem, the YHWH has not given. So he's referring to the Lord YHWH in the third person. No problem. And then he goes on in the next verse. He doesn't say, I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Ve'olech etchem, I have led you. Who is saying this? We assume Moses is saying this because obviously the sentence continues in the same person. So Moses is speaking in the third person about Hashem, and then he continues, I have led you 40 years. Of course, Moses led 40 years. And then he goes on, you have not eaten bread, you have not drunk wine or strong drinks, so that you may know that I am Hashem your God. What? He says, Lechem lo acholtem vayayin vesechar lo shetitem le'aman Ted'u, so that you may know, Ted'u ki ani Adonai Elohechem. I am Hashem, I am Yahweh, your God. Who is saying these words? Is it God? Well, not quite. Moses is saying, because he says Moses, but Hashem has not given you. Well, you may say verse 4 onwards, God is saying. Well, that's fine. But why doesn't the text makes it clear? You could argue that verse 4 and 5 are actually spoken by God. I mean, it's a fair argument. However, the text doesn't change in the person. There is no indication. These sort of things are present. It appears that why doesn't text and you don't, why don't you have something in the beginning which says, and for thus saith Hashem, I have led you for 40 years, etc. And then you go on and then say that that you may know that I am Hashem. So then it makes sense. Why is that thus saith Hashem is missing in the front? That's a problem. I mean, this is not the only problem. There are several places we have this problem. And it's there in Zechariah. I'll show you that in Zechariah chapter 2 verse 8. Here he says, Ki ko amar Adonai Tsevaot. Who is saying, for thus saith Adonai Tsevaot. And what is he saying? Achar kavod shalachani el hagoyim. After glory sent me, or you could translate it as after glory sent me to the nations. Or you can say, after glory he sent me to the nations. Because if you take this as a noun, this noun can be the subject of this verb shalachani, in which case is the glory who is sending to the nations. You could read in different ways, shalachani hagoim. So anyway, the speaker is the Lord of hosts, Adonai Tsevaot. But he says, he has sent me. Sent who? Who sent Adonai Tsevaot? Now, obviously, this is a famous Christian proof passage for the Trinity, etc. And I've used that in the past too. But actually, if you read, it's the prophet who is speaking. If you go to the next verse, it says, Ki hineni menif et yadi elehem vehayu shalal le'avdehem vidatem Ki Adonai Tsevaot shalachani. Then you will know. So he says that, and you shall know that Hashem Tsevaot, Adonai Tsevaot has sent me. So Adonai Tsevaot is sending Adonai Tsevaot. So who is the sender? Who is the sent? So it's the prophet. But why is he calling himself this? For the same reason that Moses calls himself, I am Hashem, your God. How can that be? I mean, what is this? It's ridiculous, you might think. Well, that's how. All those passages where somebody else, including some angel, like who says, my name is in him, right? Not only angels. In fact, the whole children of Israel, it is written about them. It is written about them that the nations will fear you because they will realize that the name of Hashem is written upon you, is called upon you. Name of Hashem is called upon you. And in Numbers 6 we read that the high priest will place the name of Hashem upon the children of Israel. What does it mean? It means that something of Hashem is being put inside the person so that God can act in that person as though it is he himself acting. Okay, that's the meaning of I will be who I will be, or I will be what I will be. So the question again, he will be who? The answer is who he wants to be. So the emphasis is who he wants to be, not who we make him to be. This is where I think Zechariah Sitchin made a mistake. He correctly recognizes that, I can be whoever I choose to be. That's a very correct translation. The question then is, what do you mean? Will God become something? I mean, God becomes someone? How? This is how. This is how as in the example of Moses, as in the example of Zechariah, also we can see in Isaiah, we can see in other places. That is how he becomes. In many other ways we can think. Like the phrase, this Adonai Tsevaot, means, Adonai means, the meaning of Adonai YHVH, going by Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. Ehyeh means I will be. And so the Lord's name means He will be. Tsevaot means hosts or armies. And so Adonai Tsevaot means He will be armies. Who are the armies of God? You know, when the children of Israel came out of the land of Egypt, it is written that the armies of God, Tsava Adonai, okay, the hosts of God have left Egypt. Meaning every individual within Israel is counted as within the host. We read it in the book of Isaiah chapter 6, where the seraphim cried out, Holy, 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 Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tsevaot. Okay, same title. And they say, Melo kol haaretz kevodo, meaning His glory is filled across the whole earth. In other words, He will be who He will be, and how He will be, in whom He will be, and carry out His divine will through the words, through the actions, through the powers of anyone and anything on this earth, what He chooses to be, not what we make Him to be or we want Him to be. Okay, it is He who wants to do what He wants to do. That brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video. Please do like on the channel here. Click the like button, click the bell icon. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon. Also, please do comment below, and I will see you again in the next video. Thank you very much.